With each new generation of Pokemon, there are around 100 or so new monsters that you could catch, battle, and collect. After almost 9 generations and 1,000 plus Pokemon, it's kinda hard to remember them all. Because of this, Gamefreak and the Pokemon Company try to bring back some of the old fan favorites that you forgot about. They can do this in the following ways. 1. They can give them a new form. This can range anywhere from Mega Evolution to Gigantamax forms. Number 2, they can give them Z moves, or just give them a signature move that only they know. Number 3, they can give that Pokemon a stat boost. This can be anywhere from a new typing combination, a new ability to gain access to, or just higher stats. Because of this, I have decided to gather a list of 25 Pokemon that have been neglected of any of these updates and is in desperate need of any love and attention by Pokemon. For this list, I will be going in order of how badly I want to see these Pokemon get the special treatment. So this is my own list with my takes, so please don't roast me for this in the comments. Anyways, with that all being said, let's get straight into it. Not even gonna lie to you, I forgot this was even a Pokemon. I mean, what is that? It just doesn't even look like a Pokemon to me. Bruxish really has an interesting typing, being Psychic and Water. I just wish that this Pokemon had some better stats. Since this Pokemon was introduced back in Gen 7, this Mon is only obtainable in about half the amount of games since he was introduced. In my opinion, there are just so many better Gen 7 water types, it's kind of easy to overlook Bruxish. But with a new form, this could certainly change that. What can I say about this Pokemon that hasn't been said already? This Mon is really stupid and annoying, always popping up everywhere. Being a normal type early game rodent, you would think it'd be memorable like Rattata or Zigzagoon. But no, instead it looks like this. And if you look at its stats, you hate this Mon even more. The only leg up that it has on Bruxish, in my opinion, is that it's a normal type. So it really only has one weakness while having one immunity. This Pokemon also pops up everywhere, so there are plenty opportunities to catch one. I have no idea really why it's the case, but it is. I guess you could kind of look at it as Generation's 8 version of Audino, in a way, sort of. I just really wish this Pokemon had better stats. Because I find the male and the female difference really cool, I put him on this list. Released in and forgot about after Generation 2. Fortress has a great typing being Bug and Steel, although he doesn't stand a chance when he's compared to other Bug Steel type Pokemon. His design just seems unfinished to me in a way. He is for sure a Pokemon that I could see getting an evolution, just like some of the other Gen 4 Johto evolutions. Being super defensive with his only real weakness being fire. I just really wish that his stats reflected it a little bit more. The only memorable thing that I could think of about Fortress is that Brock caught him in the anime. Other than that, he really doesn't have anything going for him. But a new form could certainly change that. When Passimian was revealed in Pokemon Sun and Moon, I didn't like it, not one bit. And to this day, I still don't like it that much. His design just doesn't seem interesting to me. I mean, he's got a ball, that's pretty much it. His stats aren't bad, and I do love the fighting type on him. But considering that I did play Sun over Moon, I prefer him over his counterpart, Oranguru. With his addition in the Generation 5 games, I actually somewhat like the design of this Pokemon, as it's just a dancing cactus. Much like a lot of the Pokemon on this list, his stats aren't good, and the Solo Grass typing isn't helping him out either, as he has a lot of weaknesses. Overall, I think that this Pokemon is one that will definitely benefit from an additional typing. I would love to see Maractus add the fire typing to him. It would make him a much usable Pokemon, and honestly, much more memorable too. In my opinion, this Pokemon is very overlooked, and when you have a mascot legendary of the same type as you, I could see why. The stats on this Mon also drives down the type tremendously. However, Xatu does look like a cool Mon, he's just unfinished in my opinion. Where you could find this Pokemon in-game definitely doesn't help, as it's very hard to find. Overall, I think this Pokemon could massively benefit from an evolution, just like another famous Johto evolution being Ursaring. The Generation 4 games are great, and I love them, don't get me wrong, and they have the most memorable Pokemon to come out of it. But Chatot isn't included on this list, as he's very stupid and annoying, popping up everywhere, and he has no business being anywhere higher on this list. The only redeeming quality in my mind that he has is the whole gimmick with the microphone in Generation 4. Overall, this is a perfect example of a Pokemon that needs an evolution. I love water-type Pokemon, I really do, but to be honest, Lumineon really drags down the type for me. He is another Pokemon that just seems unfinished to me. But I think a Mega Evolution could massively benefit him. Judging by the name of this Pokemon, what type would you say it is? Water, right? I mean, it literally has the word rain in the name. If that's not all, it gains access to a bunch of water moves. Also, when you encounter it, it's either raining outside or you're near a body of water. Bottom line is that he's really associated with water. But unfortunately, it's not water type. Instead, he is one of the most annoying types in the game, being bug flying. I mean, he's weak to 5 types while only being good against 3. That's not good in my opinion. Overall, changing his flying type to water would be very beneficial for him, as it would make him much more useful. I mean, just look at all the water bugs we have already. Early flying Pokemon are always so memorable. I mean, you got some of the greats like Pidgeot, Swallow, and Staraptor. Unfortunately, Unfezant just needs something in order to compete with those mons. The buff in Generation 6 that Unfezant got definitely helped out his case, although he needs something a little extra to make him compete with those route run birds.
I can't compete! I just can't compete!
I'll be honest, this Pokemon is one of those I forgot which gen it's from. For the longest time, I thought that Tropius was from Gen 4 because it was so prominent in the Great Marsh. But later in life, I found out that he's actually a Gen 3 Pokemon. It actually blew my mind when I found this out. It is such a cool yet simple design for a Pokemon. I just wish his typing and stats reflected that. But I would like to see Tropius get the Alolan Executor treatment and just make him a little taller. When Generation 8 was first introduced, I thought this Mon was super cool because he is a fox, which is one of my favorite animals, and he's also dark, which is one of my favorite typings. But Feevil's stats, let's just say, aren't good. If they could give Feevil the Absol treatment, I think that it would be very beneficial to him, as it would actually make him usable in my playthroughs. One of the OG psychic types from Generation 1. Playing through those games, he was great, like a less powerful Alakazam in a way. As more and more psychic Pokemon have been released, he's just been getting lost and forgotten about. Outside of my Generation 1 playthroughs, I don't think I'll ever see myself using him again. Well, maybe a form or two might change my mind about him. Also around since the beginning, this Pokemon is easily forgotten about with all the other water type Pokemon in Gen 1. Because of this, I think this Pokemon really deserves another typing, and I think Rock is that type, as Water Rock really adds to his already pretty good attack stat as well as makes his defenses that much better. I think that Misty could really utilize Seeking that much more if he was Rock type. Introduced in Generation 2, this annoying little bug creature is so bad that it's funny. I mean, it has 35 attack, which is lower than a shell, a lamp, and a jellyfish. For being a final Evo, that's just plain depressing. On top of that, his typing really isn't the best either, and his moveset is just lacking a bit. I think that this Mon could really get a new form in Legend ZA, and I think Steel Bug is a perfect combination. I mean, fan games have had it done, so why not the main series? Ever since this Pokemon was released in the original 151, it has been overshadowed. I understand why, because Fearow is much worse than Pidgeot in every single way. I mean, Pidgeot's got better moves, better stats, and a Mega Evolution. Meanwhile, what did Fearow get? Because of this, I think that Fearow could massively benefit from a Mega Evolution just like his Gen 1 counterpart. Out of all the Pokemon to come out of Gen 5, I think that Sigilyph is by far one of the coolest and most unique. The first time I saw a wild Sigilyph, I knew I wanted it for my team. Also, was I the only one to think that he evolved from Unknown? Or was that just me? But I took one look at Sigilyph's stats, then immediately took him off my team. As a Pokemon that I once thought was cool, slick, awesome, it really has come down in the ranks because of his stats. But with a cool Mega, I think that it can single-handedly change my opinion. Generation 6 really brought us some cool Pokemon, but Pyroar has gotta be the most middle-of-the-road Pokemon I've ever seen. I mean, he's got mid stats, a mid typing, and mid abilities, even though he's got a great hidden ability. But I think it's hard to get because he's so rare to find. Especially within X and Y, he's so rare to find. Pyroar is just one of those Pokemon that isn't good, isn't bad, he's just there. But by giving him a much needed Mega Evolution, that can change everything and make him from a okay Pokemon to an actual pretty good Pokemon. Of this list of Pokemon, I think Dhelmise is one of the coolest and most underrated ones. I mean, a haunted anchor, how sick is that? Not to mention that this Pokemon has a cool typing as well as good stats, and a unique ability in the form of Steelworker. I mean, it basically gives Dhelmise another stab boost for all his steel type moves. Despite the great things about Dhelmise, it's a very forgettable Pokemon. So much so that I even forgot what generation it's in. But if this Mon gets a form, I think Dhelmise will be much more of a memorable Pokemon. This Pokemon is just the epitome of unfinished. I don't know, there's just something about his design that just seems not done. I mean, he has a cool concept and cool typings, but that's where the coolness ends, as he's got okay stats and a decent ability. But much like Pyroar, I think Barbaracle is in much need of a Mega Evolution. When Ruby and Sapphire first came out, I never really liked this Pokemon, as it was always overshadowed by Shedinja. But when the Gen 4 anime was released, and I saw Paul's Ninjask go up against Ash's Infernape, I immediately fell in love with this Mon. The only really bad thing I see with Ninjask is his typing. I get it that bug and flying makes sense because, well, he's a flying bug. I would prefer him to have the bug steel type, but that's neither here nor there. Honestly, he's got a great moveset in my opinion, but his stats are just really lackluster, as the only glaring stat is his speed stat. But if he got a further evolution, I would love that a lot, as he could definitely gain some more points in attack to pair up with his already great speed stat. This is the Pokemon most sought after as a candidate for Mega Evolution, and people are probably losing their minds right now that I'm not putting them at number 1. But Flygon for me just isn't that high on my priority list. I mean, he's a really solid Pokemon overall, and as a kid I always thought he was a pseudo-legendary, because at that time there were a lot of powerful Dragon-type Pokemon that were considered pseudo-legendary. Despite all of this, he's got really solid stats with an ability that just adds an extra immunity to his already previous electric type immunity. The only flaw that I could see in this Pokemon would be in its typing, because of course one ice move and he's gone. Overall, I really hope that Legend ZA delivers and gives this Pokemon the Mega he so desperately deserves. I don't know if it's anime nostalgia or the simple yet sleek design, but I love Heliolisk, and he is one of my favorite Generation 6 Pokemon, but his typing really drags him down for me. While Electric is the best type of all time, that normal type just isn't working out for me. While his ability can be good at times, it's also very situational. His stats are also not the best, otherwise I would always use him on my playthrough teams. This is why I could really see him get a Mega Evolution and giving him some sort of extra typing like the Dragon type. Just basically give him the Mega Ampharos treatment. Then to pay homage to the previous normal typing that he once had, let's give him Galvanize as his new ability. Or just give him Transistor to add onto the extra firepower that his special electric type moves desperately needs. Which leaves me into his stats, which I would love a plus 100 into his special attack, special defense, and speed. Overall, I don't think that Legend ZA will give him a mega form, but one can only hope for the future. Electric is my favorite type of all time, and Luxray is one of my favorite electric type Pokemon. I mean, he just looks so cool. But wow, Luxray desperately needs the dark type. I mean, it would just make sense for his lore and his design. I mean, there are plenty of ROM hacks and fan games out there that make him electric dark, because it just makes sense. Also, his stats are okay, but they aren't anything amazing. That's why I think giving him a Mega Form could simply change that by bumping up his speed, his defense, and maybe a little bit of his attack and HP too. I mean, he can already learn so many dark type moves like Crunch, Throat Chop, and Snarl. So just please add the dark type. Also, Luxray already has 3 perfect abilities for him, making Luxray a fine candidate for Mega Evolution. If there was any Pokemon at all that could receive a Mega Evolution in ZA, it has to be Luxray. And there you have it, my list of 25 Pokemon that desperately need some love and attention from Gamefreak and the Pokemon Company. It's always exciting to see how older Pokemon get revitalized with new forms, evolutions, or abilities. So I just hope some of my Pokemon picks for forms just get implemented in future games. But no one knows for sure, so only time will tell. But for now, all we can do is pray that the next Legends ZA trailer brings some of these mega forms that I mentioned in this video to life.